Sex is something that is assigned at birth. They are based on your anatomy or your biological sex. Gender is a socially constructed gender that includes gender expression and gender roles. According to Tincombe, gender is a social identity separated from gender biological sex, and it's shaped by cultural contexts and social structures. Queer is the social group including gay, lesbian, bisexual positions, and other non-categorizable abnormal positions. Nowadays, movies are a common way to convey social phenomena and problems to the public. According to Sun, as a branch of film development, the queer film has its unique artistic appeal and thinking logic in the exploration of gender consciousness and erotic expression. The visualization of the queer image is conducive to increasing the public's attention and tolerance of queer community. However, although more and more queer films are entering the audience's vision, they are still on the periphery of people's vision. In addition, queer communities are pathologized and stigmatized as otherness in their interactions with the outside world. Such disapproval from the outside world may even become the biggest threat and obstacle to queer communities' survival. This has made us wonder whether queer communities' gender identity is affected by queer films. Boys Don't Cry is a film directed by Kimberly Peirce about Brendan Tina, who identifies as male due to gender cognition disorders. She travels to Falls City and meets Lana and her friends John and Tom. Due to an accident, Brendan was caught in a women's prison after being discovered as a woman. He was raped and murdered by John and Tom. In this film, Brendan shows his resistance to his normal gender. His gender identity is male, so he should not be classified as a lesbian but as transgender. He rebelled first against his cousin's words and then against the values of society as a whole. However, in the social context of the time, Brendan failed. His gender identity was not accepted by society, and he even paid for it with his life. Besides, the film uses a contrastive approach to show the oppression of gender hegemony on Brendan, and the director doesn't make the whole movie tragic. After Lana comes to the prison to rescue Brendan and Brendan confesses his true identity, Lana reveals that she loves Brendan regardless of gender. By contrast, the film ends with John and Tom brutally treating Brendan. The warmth of the former and the horror of the latter form a strong visual contrast, raising the audience's attention to the queer community under the model of gender hegemony. Boys Don't Cry seems to remind the audience that Brendan's life is a microcosm of queer life. The queer community wants to be treated as equals. Cooper argues that Boys Don't Cry exposes the sexual bias inherent in the ideology of the opposite sex and the brutal and deadly consequences of society's failure to eradicate this bias. Hence, the existence of heterosexual hegemony as the norm of society can be seen as a threat to the queer community. Another example is the film The Danish Girl, directed by Tom Hooper. It is the story of Anna Wagner, the world's first recorded transgender person. Anna's inner femininity spiraled out of control when she helped impersonate female models.
The sooner I start, the sooner I finish. When you're feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will drag them home. Don't worry, my darling. I'm on your side. Oh, Lily. Darkness comes.
She imitates women's movements and gestures, constantly feeling the female side of her life, and becomes Lily in a real sense. Butler defined that bodily gestures, movements, and enactments of various kinds constitute the illusion of an abiding gendered self. Ina breaks through the limitations of her biological sex, giving her the satisfaction of her gender construction. Under the yoke of patriarchy and social normality, Ina has long repressed her inner female identity. She tried to undertake the risk of sex reassignment surgery, although she ended up with death. She finally reconciled with herself and completed her self-identity. The Danish Girl had a positive effect, as Ina's stories gave queer community confidence to break through the limitations of normality and encouraged them to pursue their gender identity. Nowadays, with the development and change of the times, queer communities are more and more represented in all kinds of mainstream films. It gave queer films a more powerful voice and direct expression, and it gave queer community the confidence to find their own gender identity.